Okay, today I'm going to be talking about something very similar to the last one, which was about faces, but how to pretty much copy any cartoon body style and some of the actual applications. Just like faces, cartoon bodies kind of follow that sort of formula of taking your really fundamental elements and just orient them in the right way and then playing with them. Now that might sound weird, so just to make sense of it, again, I like draw these shapes in like random places, you might go, I don't know what this is, but if I take these and move them all over here, the right orientation, or like say, let's do, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We gotta number them. Suddenly we have a human being, and they have consciousness and problems, and we have to make sure they pay their taxes, right? Over here, no taxes. Over here, taxes, right? And this what I've just showed you here, this general principle is the secret to most cartooning, as I'm going to show you with my first example, Finn the Human. If you take any one of his elements, like the shape of his body, the shape of his arms, and remove them, and you don't put them in the context of the rest of a body, they'll make no sense. Right? If I were to say take his leg, oh, I don't want layer style, go away. Hold on. I hit a button. There we go. So, if you look at just his leg, right, it's literally just a noodle. Right? If you draw like a more anatomically correct leg, you have a knee, right? Maybe a shin. And then by itself, you can kind of say, oh, that might be a leg, right? You can kind of see some legginess here. But over here by itself, you see no sign of a leg. That could be a pipe under your sink for all you know, right? But it's actually Finn the Human's leg. Now, if I take this and put it next to another one of these, and I decide to put these little nubs down here, suddenly you might go, oh, I think I see legs, right? You know, but I could also say, oop, watch this. I could also maybe say, well, how do I know this isn't just a giraffe, but upside down, right? Maybe some giraffe horns. I think that's about how that works. You need more context, right? And so you keep orienting the pieces of the body next to other pieces, and that then tells viewers this is a character, right? So if I decided to put a little trunk on here, right? I didn't make them wide enough. Oh God. Wrong lasso. Right lasso. Right? So if I put this trunk on here, right, this kind of squarish shape, and I add in some things that look like arms, which again, you might notice by themselves, this arm shape by itself makes no bloody sense, right? It could be, what is that, like a snake, an elephant's trunk, who knows? When I take that and put it in the context of the rest of a body, you see this happening over here, right? Same thing with his head. His head is like just this little kind of toast shape, right? Y'all tracking? You see the basics of cartooning here, right? It's all about orienting things next to other things. Just like the face, the body is no different. When you're drawing your own cartoon characters, whether they be anime or Western, whatever, this is the formula for a body, right? It's like, I know it's kind of stupid sounding, but this is the shape language, right? And whether you want to do, like, for instance, who's a weird one? Dexter's Laboratory, right? He has, like, he's a square with these little feet, but because everything is oriented in the right place, your brain goes, this is a person, right? That's like Dexter's shape right there. If you know Dexter's Lab, the show, right? That's the basis of bodies. Let's get into some bodies. All right. Okay, you had to go get a package. Well, I'll go real quick. We can always refer back to the video. This is just showing how the pieces of a body in random pile make no sense, but if you move them into the right positions relative to each other, you get something that looks like a person, right? Make sense? That's about the simplest way I can say it. So, moving on here, let's move on to an anime character, because who doesn't love anime? Actually, no, sorry, I misspoke. I want to go into Starfire first, because Starfire has the wonderful, how should I put this? She just gets re-envisioned a lot. I guess she started comic, then she went Teen Titans, then Teen Titans Go, right? She's just getting simpler and simpler until eventually she's just going to be a circle with a face on it, right? Now, the beauty of these designs, being the same characters, they show you how we go from something more realistic and we move to something more cartoonish, right? We're getting more and more cartoony and abstract, right? Because nobody is shaped like this in real life. But even though this character with all of the limbs by itself would make no sense, because they're in the right places, we go, oh, that's a person, right? That's how that works. Right? So, just to drive this in until it's just an absolutely uncomfortable, beaten, dead horse, that's your body, right? But what's a more complex version? I'll zoom in here. So there's a head, there's like a rib cage, right? This is a more complex version. There's these different pieces, and these can all be simplified. This is like a more traditional human body, right? And to the point of proportions, this is actually, you can play with proportions a lot in cartoon. You really, really, really can, right? And I want to show you the kind of evolution here. Well, actually, wait, I have a better way of showing this. I have a better way, right? Okay. So, we move through the variations of people. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to show you kind of, right? So, I'm sure y'all have been through the anatomy lectures. As you cartoon, all you're doing is you're just kind of breaking things out into their base elements more and more and deciding what parts you like, what parts you don't like, right? So on this first Starfire, she has she has all anatomical elements, right? You can point to muscles on her body. You can say, here's the bicep, right? Here's her pecs, right? The neck, it's all there. All that's really happened is there's a little bit of exaggeration in the face, right? The eyes are a little turned up, the mouth is a little more turned up. Otherwise, this is an anatomically correct person. The cartoonish elements is really more on the coloring, when there's been some airbrushing and some of the subtle color here is being added. That's not really so much normal. The hair is very stylized. But here you're looking at like a solid, 8.5 out of 10 for realism, where 10 is very realistic and 1 is not realistic, right? Now we move over here and we can see that the torso has been simplified, right? There's no real delineation of abs here. The feet are quite large, right? And this goes to the point of proportion, is she's actually quite long and her head's larger than proportionally accurate. You can see over here, her head's her head is smaller relative to her body, and over here it's larger. And it's even bigger here, right? We see the head just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we move through the cartoon versions. And so it's not so much that the proportions are ever going to be like quote unquote accurate. It's just that the pieces are in the right spot, right? So like if I take this Starfire, for instance, and even though you can see it in the side by side, I'm going to show it anyway, right? I could make her head bigger, right? Still works. I could make her body stumpier. Still reads as a person. Now, whether it's a good design or not is a different conversation, but this still reads as a person, right? I could then make her arms and make them longer if I wanted. Like, these proportions don't really matter as long as the pieces are in the right spot, right? And then that turns into the question of, do I like this design, right? Because if you give her like really stumpy legs, really long arms, well, that's kind of maybe like trollish looking, knuckle draggers, not really like a very pleasant term. It's kind of associated with being stupid and a little Neolithic, if I may, right? But to your point of proportion, I'll say it again, it's just a matter of your pieces being in the right spot. That's it, right? Like for instance, if I go to our character here and I trace a little bit over top, you'll see she's actually very long. Right? Like here's her rib cage; it's quite big. Her torso comes all the way down like this. But you see how long it is? Her legs are very long too, proportionally, right? And this part just comes down to, well, what do you want to do, right? There is definitely a trend in cartoon girls that are not like, really heavy cartoons to just make them very long. Like anime girls have a lot of legs. Like Sailor Moon characters they have very, very, very big legs, right? And so all I'm trying to teach, like get you into the mindset here as you make your cartoons is to just be mindful of how these pieces can be played with, right? Because I can't give you like a map to go and understand every cartoon character, but I can tell you how you go and break down cartoon characters you like so you can understand their styles, right? For any of these processes, you want to make sure you understand the basics of what natural human proportion is, and you can go through all of the Pose Masterclass stuff there, and I go through that. There's also all the anatomy lectures where I go through all of that, and you'll see what makes a average, quote unquote, accurate human body, and then you can take that and just completely ruin it with cartooning, right? Starfire here in this body she's kind of still following the cues, right? Like her elbows kind of go with the middle of her torso here. And her arms are a little long, but her fingertip ends kind of meet mid-thigh, right? More or less. Her feet are definitely bigger. Like these should probably be about here if they were quote-unquote anatomically accurate, but the feet are a little larger, right? So here, we're looking at maybe like a 6 to 7 out of 10. Right? Still fairly close, but we're kind of getting weird. Especially the face, right? She's getting the kind of anime face where the eyes are big and kind of out to the side, a little fish-eyed. Right? And we come to this weird one here. This super, super strange one. And you can see her head is like a third of her body, right? Her arms, are literally shapes like this. Oops. Right? Her hands are just like little. They have the 4 fingers and the thumb, but if I just had this by itself, I just put this over here, you might mistake it for a piece of grass, right? But because it's the end of an arm, a brain's gonna go, oh, that's a hand. See what I'm talking about? How it's all just about context. Cartoon characters are all about context, right? All of these shapes, like her leg, for God's sake. Look at this. Look at this nonsense. Right? Look at her leg by itself. This by itself could be anything. If I rotate this and I do this with it, what is this? Like if I just zoom in, could be a sword. I don't know. Maybe a giraffe's ear again. Could be all kinds of things, right? But because it's next to another shape meant to be a leg, next to another shape meant to be a torso, and it's all oriented in that kind of body fashion, we all read it as a body, right? Like, for instance, her torso is just like this little bean shape, right? There's a little hint of bust there, right? And then her leg is just this big kind of, I don't know what you'd call it. Anyway, what would you call that shape, fellas? What would you call that leg shape? Right? Boomerang. Yeah, sure, like a boomerang shape, right? Right. There's your general shapes. If I break them apart, real, right? You can see there's a neck shape, right? You see the language? You starting to pick up, are you really picking up what I'm putting down here? All just about context, right? If I put these shapes in any other orientation, you will not see Starfire. When I put them next to each other in the right way, you see Starfire, right? And you can take this and push it even harder if you want. It's all just about context. And with the power of context, you can steal any cartoon character's style. Right? You can even warp it. If I want to make this even more ridiculous, I can, okay, we'll give her a big head. Okay, we're going to go for the big chibi head. And give her classic eyes. Right? And that little hair thing, right? We can see her little, she got that classic hair curl. Okay, we'll come in. Okay, there we go. And you're right there. And we got that little cheek thing. Great, cool. Let's see. What's a fun pose? And with the bean. That old chibi bean. Little hand right here with some fire. Right? I'm just sketching right now, but don't worry. I will go over the specifics here. Okay. Here. Oh. Drawing a chibi version and taking this to the even further level. Here's the head. Right? The head shape. Let's put in a little hand right here. I don't even like draw the fingers properly. I just did like a bloop, 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 right? Do a body here. There's a general hint of femininity to it. There isn't much, though. Right? There's a little neck piece right there. And here's her arm. It's literally like this. It's just like a 3, right? But because it's in context, say with me, it's in context, we see an arm. Same thing here, right? That's the forearm. When you draw this out more properly, right, you see all the muscles. There's like, bicep, tricep and stuff, shoulder, but you can take it and reduce it to a little arrow, right? Which by itself makes no sense, but context. Right? Right? You see it, you feel it, right? And here she got some powers going on, I don't know. And with that, you can draw any cartoon. Right? Any questions so far, or are we all just having a good time? Anytime you want to like draw a character from a certain style, just break it apart, put it back together. Hey, look, Chibi Starfire. See that? It's all about context. And now we have the full evolution from a very realistic Starfire to the absolute zenith of characterization. Like a pretty cute Starfire, isn't it? Someone needs to write. Who owns DC? I want a Chibi Teen Titans. I want Teen Titans Chibi. It's the next step, right? Because you know what? This isn't enough. I want this. I know sometimes they do like little chibi frames, but I want the whole thing to be chibi, or I'm suing. Yeah, so that's just to your point of those characters in Western animation are drawn differently in the same series. That's just having fun with animation, you know? That's the beauty of it. You want to do Dexter's Lab again? I can pull up a Dexter. Here. Dexter's Lab. Characters. Oh, perfect. We got him and his sister. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. This is great. This is just such classic cartooning. Okay. Great suggestion. So, Dexter is a complete abomination of anatomy, but we look at it and we see a human being. Why? Because all the pieces are in the right spot. Say it to yourself. It's the secret of cartooning. Right, let's break down his shapes. He's got this head here. Right? Not even, honestly, barely. There's kind of like this. That's Dexter. Yeah, right? That's the shape. See it? Break down his shape. Make that little. Cool, right? And then you just add in some details. Okay, we got like the little neck here. We got this. Right? We'll do different colors so you can see the actual process of just putting in the pieces. Does that help when I do different colors? Yeah, right. So his neck and his shirt have been kind of merged into one. Right, his arm is that classic noodle shape. Right, his hand is literally just bloop bloop bloop. It's not even 4 fingers. There's no thumb. Right, his feet. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. That's all it is. Right. Like 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines, and we got ourselves a foot. You can all draw Dexter now, right? And then it's all, throwing a couple little details. There we go. I'll get to his face and his hair right now. So his hair, right? I'm sure every one of you can make this shape, right? If you put that on top of here, suddenly you got Dexter. See? Now, as far as making your own cartoon characters, it's really just going out there, playing, having fun, trying new things, and sort of learning different shapes that you like, right? Because maybe I don't like this hair on Dexter. Maybe I want to do, because to the point of like them changing within the same show, is maybe there's a bit about him having long, luxurious hair, right? So we can give him Starfire's hair, right? Maybe he said he wanted Starfire's haircut, and we can just come in and give him Starfire's hair, right? And that's all just about understanding, well, the shapes that you like, right? See? Now he's got Starfire's hair. Because you understand that Starfire's hair is like this little bang piece, and then, the bangs, the sideburn, and then the big piece in the back, right? Making sense? of course, his big dumb glasses. Right? You can change his glasses too if you want. If I decide, okay, he's gonna go for a more, I don't know, round look. Okay, I just go and I study some characters. I know I can just draw these two circles and put some eyes in them, and that's gonna read like glasses, right? And we'll give him the same nose, so there's some character continuity, right? Totally different character. It's all just playing with your shape language, right? And you can keep playing, you know, I can keep playing with the head shapes, I can playing with the body shapes, I can decide to put him in flat shoes if I wanted, right? I could make his feet round, right? And that's, as far as what I'm doing here, this is just, I've drawn a lot of cartoons and studied a lot of cartoons, so you just kind of learn the shapes you can use, right? And that's just a matter of building your cartoon visual library, right? So you can see Dee Dee, her feet do this. Sorry, they're like kind of down. There's a big roundness to them, and then it's pointy in the back. So you draw some cartoons. You know, I can draw a foot like that, right? I can go over here on Dexter and give him Dee Dee's feet if I want, right? And now I have my cartoon character. That's all it is. No, it is. It's that simple. Everything after this is just practice and playing, right? As far as Dee Dee, she's the same thing. Right, here's her head shape. Like a wine glass, right? It actually connects with her neck. Make sure we use all the same colors. Big silly eyes. So these are huge eyes. I like these eyes. These are fun eyes. Got like a little nose. Big dumb smile. This one's a little... Oh, wow. She is just a zany looking character. Got that teardrop hair. Her body is almost non-existent. See that? But why does it work? Context! Sweet, sweet context. Oh, I made her a little too small there. Right. Big long shape. Big long shape. It's all starting to make sense, y'all. For these cartoon bodies, I don't have room for her legs here. Any questions about that, or does it make complete and perfect sense? I assume that makes sense to everybody. Getting some ahas. Can you draw your own cartoon characters? Yeah, it's a really classic, just doodle cartoon style. And the main thing to keep in mind is remember it's a puzzle, right? All cartoon characters is they're just puzzles. They're just human-shaped puzzles, right? Because I can take this same Dee Dee. I'll show you again, right? If I wanted, I could give her Starfire's hairstyle. Right, look, there, that's all gone. The head shape is still there. And I can give her the classic boop boop, right? Remember, there's that big M. There's a bang. And then there's the big hair. Right? Now suddenly it's a Starfire character. See? I can decide to, I don't know, let's see, what do we want to do? Someone type something. What should I do to the character? What do you want to change about her? Play with the puzzle. Different feet? Sure. Watch, I'll give her Dexter's feet. Okay. Now she's got those, like, that high heel thing, right? Because you'll, like, you know, if you watch, like, I got this from Pop-Up Girls, right? The way they did him, right? I know that some characters, you can just draw a foot like this, it looks like a high heel, right? And that's just all about that cartoon visual library. So go watch cartoons, and be like, oh, you can draw feet that way, right? We could keep going with it, and let's give her the him hands, right? The big. I know I can draw crab hands like this, right? And at that point, it's just play, man. You're just having some fun. You're getting wild with it. Cool. Okay. So I will take a small moment to show an anime character, but it won't be that special because here's Nami. The thing about anime is quite anatomically accurate, except for the face. Right? Sometimes you can see here, like this is I'll grab here. I'm gonna grab one more here for you. Here. So here's, like, I would call the most traditional anime girl shape ever these days. This is where it was perfected. Good old sword art. Now, because you've been joining all the lectures, you can see that Asuna here has fairly accurate body proportions. You know, we talk about, like, traditional, average, anatomically accurate human bodies, right? We do our proportion checks. Same thing like Starfire. We see the elbow is near the middle of the midriff. I'll turn that down. We see, let's see here. Okay, hands, mid-thigh, great, cool. What about the length? What's halfway about there? Okay. That means this should be about the top half too. I'm just rambling here as we go through. Yeah, well, her legs are a little long. Okay, we got the first one there, right? Okay, so they made her legs a little longer than halfway. So she's a little leggy. Okay, so that's our first anime cue, right? Anime. Girls. We like long legs. Okay, what else is messed up here? Kind of a small torso. Upper torso, like small upper torso, right? This is like an anime girl. Called the cheat sheet, right here. I'm gonna write cheat sheet. Cheat sheet, right? So we make the legs longer. We do a little small upper torso, right? Here's two up there. There's one over here. Two. Oh, and then of course there's the big sneaky one. Big head. Big eyes. Right? And with that, we have anime style. Even though the rest of the proportions are still very accurate, right? Everything's still in a very, let's call it not super stylized positions, right? Now, I'm not going to go into anime faces because they're their own cheat sheet unto themselves, and that's worth an entire lecture. But for the most part, anime characters are fairly straightforward, right? Another thing actually I should mention is number 4 is less detail, right? I think I'm not confusing this. We don't do like clavicles, we don't do biceps, we don't draw veins, we don't like put in abs. Anime character styles, very simple, super minimal generally, right? On the skin. Like, you know, you might have crazy outfits, but the actual human frame, very, very simple, right? We're not like drawing in thick necklines and she's got like a jacked clavicles, right? We don't do that. And if we decide to take this to a more extreme example, Nami. So what's old Nami up to here, right? What are we up to? Well, this is in the way now. Let's take our cheat sheet and look at Nami here for the rest of this, for the last section. Now, I couldn't really find a decent one with her whole body, so we can't really check the long legs, but we all know that she does have very long legs. She actually has long limbs, right? Just change that to, is it not erasing? You want long, thin limbs, right? This will be the One Piece girls, right? Which is technically anime, but it gets a little interesting. Okay, we got long, thin limbs. Okay, that's one here. Okay. What else? Is the small upper torso still there? Not so much, but what we do have is a very, let's call it just very hourglass, right? Right, see how hard this comes in here? Big hips. Very cartoonish, right? What else do we notice? Let's call it bountiful. Right? And what about the less detail? Well, there's really not really any detail there, right? We see, okay, there's a hint there. Maybe a little bit of belly. The belly button's actually off, right? The belly button should be up here in line with the elbow, but it's not. So we'll call this kind of looser anatomy, right? The rules are not actually super tight. We see the clavicles are wrong. The neck is a little thin. The head's actually smaller relative to heads. Like, we have very long characters. Or, let's call this less head, more body, right? And I think last we got big hands. Okay. Y'all see that? How you can take a character and pull them apart to get the style? And you can keep doing this. You can just keep going. You're like, okay, this is how the noses are done in this style. This is how the hair is done in this style. This is how the fingernails are done in this style, right? You can see she's got a little bit of fingernails going on, right? Maybe Asuna doesn't. How y'all feeling about cartoon bodies? Could you go and break down any cartoon's body? For instance, I don't know, Jared from Subway as a South Park character hitting a dead horse. And this works for both men as it does for women. I've chosen female characters for most of this, because they tend to be a little more, let's call them esoteric to your average cartoonist. Men's bodies, you can get away with all kinds of crazy stuff because people are very accepting of exaggerated male bodies. But women's bodies are a little trickier because we have a very strong idea of feminine cues. I guess there's a lot of very weird shaped dudes out there. Anyway, that would be what I had planned for the cartoon body lecture. Are there any questions before I hit that stop recording button? Think I get it? Cool. Now you got to go practice. That's everyone's homework. Is go and pick like your favorite 3 cartoon characters of all time. Break apart the bodies. Break apart the pieces. What's the hair shape? What's the nose shape? And just start building that library. All of this is just puzzle pieces, right? The more cartoon characters you study, the more pieces you have for, oh, I can do this head shape, or this head shape. I can do a pointy nose, a round nose, a square nose. And you just build this big library of little cartoon shapes. Because there's an almost endless way to draw every part of the human body in a cartoon fashion. So, I definitely can't tell you all of them in an hour. That could be its own year. Just ongoing, you can do this, so on and so forth. So just go out there, get your hands dirty, and go study some characters. With that, let's move to Q&A.